Ada had everything a woman could ever want: wealth, influence, elegance, and a surname that made strangers lower their voices when they spoke to her. Yet none of it belonged to her.
My life is so perfect, but I have no say in it.
From the outside, her life looked perfect. Inside, it felt like a carefully decorated cage. Her father, Chief Akaffer, was a man who believed control was love. To him, a daughter's future was a negotiation, not a conversation. Ada had learned early to smile when told, to nod when instructed, to remain silent when decisions about her life were made in rooms she was not invited into. But silence has a limit. The announcement came during a grand dinner, with crystal glasses clinking and expensive laughter filling the air. Ada sat beside her father, composed as always, until he stood and raised a toast. "To a new alliance," he said proudly. "My daughter, Ada, will be marrying Kelvin Adami, son of my dear friend." Applause followed. Ada's heart did not. Kelvin, seated across the table, grinned like he had just been handed a new toy. He was well-dressed, undeniably wealthy, and completely insufferable. Throughout the evening, he spoke over Ada, interrupted her, and referred to their future as if she were already his possession. "Don't worry," he said at one point, chuckling. "My mum will guide you. She knows exactly how things should be done." Ada smiled politely, but something inside her tightened. Later that night, as she walked past her father's study, she heard voices. "Love is irrelevant," her father said calmly. "This marriage secures our position. That is what matters." Ada stopped in her tracks. Not a daughter, a transaction. Something inside her finally broke free. That same night, she packed a small bag. No jewelry, no luxury, just essentials. She took a final look at the room she had grown up in, a place that had never truly felt like hers, and walked out. No goodbye, no hesitation. Just freedom and fear. The world outside her father's mansion was not kind. Money disappeared faster than she expected. Calls to friends went unanswered. Doors that once opened easily now stayed shut. Ada learned quickly that without her family's name, she was invisible. Days turned into weeks. Hunger replaced comfort, pride battled survival, and eventually survival won. She accepted a job as a house help. The irony was not lost on her. From being
Oh
served
my
to
God,
served.
this is what my life is now.
Mr. Cole's mansion stood tall and silent, much like the man himself. He was a billionaire known for his sharp mind and colder heart. People respected him, feared him, but rarely understood him. Years of betrayal had taught him one thing: trust was expensive, and most people could not afford it. When Ada arrived, she was just another employee. At least, that's what he thought. She kept her head down, did her work, and spoke only when necessary. But there was something unusual about her, something that didn't fit. It wasn't just her composure, it was her presence. She moved with quiet confidence, spoke with clarity, and carried herself like someone who had known more than she revealed. Mr. Cole noticed. At first it was irritation, then curiosity. One evening, after a frustrating business call, Mr. Cole snapped over a minor mistake. "Do you people ever think?" he said sharply. Most would have apologized immediately. Ada didn't. She looked at him, calm, steady, and said, "Respect is not given because of status, it is earned." Silence filled the room. No one spoke to him like that, not anymore. Instead of anger, something unexpected stirred within him: interest. That moment changed everything. Mr. Cole began to observe her more closely. He noticed the books she read, the way she spoke, measured, intelligent, the way she never tried to impress him, yet somehow always did. And slowly, he started to speak to her. At first casually, then intentionally. What began as brief exchanges grew into conversations, and without realizing it, something began to shift, not just in his house, but in him. The change in Mr. Cole was not sudden, but it was undeniable. At first it showed in small ways: less impatience, fewer sharp words, longer pauses before dismissing people. Those who worked in the house noticed it, though none dared to question it. The man who once moved through his home like a storm now carried a quiet stillness, as if something within him had softened. And at the center of that change was Ada. She never tried to influence him. She never sought his attention. Yet somehow she held it. Their conversations became a routine neither of them acknowledged out loud. Sometimes it happened in the evenings, when the house grew quiet and the day's noise faded. Other times it was brief exchanges in passing, simple words that somehow lingered longer than they should. Ada spoke with a kind of honesty Mr. Cole had not encountered in years. She did not flatter him. She did not fear him. She did not need anything from him, and that alone made her different from everyone else. One evening he found her in the library. She was seated by the window, a book open in her hands, her expression thoughtful. Soft light from outside cast a calm glow around her, and for a moment Mr. Cole simply stood there watching. "You read a lot," he said eventually. Ada looked up, slightly startled, then nodded. "It helps me think." "About what?" "About life," she replied simply. "About choices, about the things people don't say out loud." Mr. Cole studied her. "You speak like someone who has experienced more than this job allows." Ada held his gaze for a moment, then looked away. "Everyone has a story." It was not a denial, but it was not an explanation either, and strangely he respected that. As the days passed, something unexpected began to happen. Mr. Cole started to look forward to her presence. He noticed when she wasn't around. He found himself asking questions he normally wouldn't ask, listening longer than he usually did. And for the first time in years he laughed. It was subtle at first, a brief smile, a quiet chuckle, but it was there. Ada saw it. She didn't comment on it, didn't draw attention to it. She simply accepted it as she accepted everything else, with quiet understanding. But beneath that calm surface, Ada carried her own battles. There were nights when she lay awake, staring at the ceiling, wondering if she had made the right choice. Nights when memories of her former life returned, comfort, security, familiarity. And then came the other memories, her father's voice, Kelvin's arrogance, the suffocating feeling of being trapped in a life she did not choose. Each time she reminded herself why she left. Freedom was not easy, but it was hers. Mr. Cole, on the other hand, was fighting a different kind of battle. For years he had built walls around himself, thick, unbreakable barriers designed to keep people out. It had worked. No one got close enough to hurt him again. Until now. Ada had not forced her way in. She had simply been there, and somehow that was enough. He found himself thinking about her at unexpected moments, during meetings, during long drives, even in the silence of his own thoughts. It unsettled him. He did not like feeling vulnerable, but he could not deny the truth. She had changed something in him. One night, as they sat across from each other in the quiet dining room, the conversation took a different turn. "What do you want?" Mr. Cole asked suddenly. Ada looked at him, confused. "What do you mean?" "In life," he clarified. "What do you actually want?" She was silent for a moment, then she spoke. "I want to be with someone who sees me," she said. "Not my background, not my value, just me. Someone who knows what he wants. Someone who chooses me not because he has to, but because he wants to." Mr. Cole felt something shift in his chest. "And if you find that," he asked. Ada smiled faintly. "Then I'll know it was worth everything I lost." For a moment, neither of them spoke. But something had changed, something deeper than words. And just as that fragile connection began to grow, the past came knocking. The sound of tires crunching against gravel broke the quiet rhythm of the afternoon. It was not the usual delivery van or a visitor announced in advance. This arrival carried a different kind of weight, one that made the air feel heavier before anyone even stepped out of the car. Ada felt it before she saw it. She was in the kitchen when the gate opened, but something in her chest tightened suddenly, instinctively. A familiar unease crept in, one she had not felt since the night she left home. Then she heard voices, not just any voices, his voice, her father's. Her hands froze mid-motion. The glass she held trembled slightly, and for a moment she couldn't breathe. He had found her. In the living room, Chief Okafor stood tall, his presence commanding as ever. Time had not softened him. It had sharpened the authority in his eyes. Beside him stood Kelvin, smiling, confident, as if Ada's return was already guaranteed. Mr. Cole stood across from them, composed but alert. He had not been informed of their arrival, and he did not appreciate surprises, especially ones that carried this kind of tension. "I assume you have a reason for coming here unannounced," Mr. Cole said calmly. Chief Okafor's gaze was steady. "I am here for my daughter." The words hung in the air. Mr. Cole's expression did not change, but something inside him did. "Daughter." Ada stepped into the room slowly. The moment her eyes met her father's, everything she had tried to leave behind came rushing back, the expectations, the control, the suffocating weight of a life that had never been hers. Kelvin's smile widened. "I knew you wouldn't stay away forever," he said, his tone laced with arrogance. You just needed time. Ada said nothing. Her silence spoke louder than any response. You've embarrassed this family long enough, her father said coldly. It is time to come home. Home, the word felt foreign. Ada straightened slightly, her hand steady now. I didn't leave to embarrass you, she replied quietly. I left because I had no choice. Her father's expression hardened. You had every choice, you simply chose disobedience. Kelvin stepped forward. Let's not make this complicated, he said lightly. The wedding can still happen. My mother has already made adjustments. Ada looked at him, for the first time truly looked, and saw exactly what she had run from, not a partner, not a man, but a life she could never survive. I'm not coming back, she said. The room fell silent, her father's eyes narrowed. You don't get to make that decision. I already did, Ada replied, her voice did not shake. Mr. Cole watched the exchange carefully. Piece by piece, the truth revealed itself. Ada was not who she seemed. She was not just a house help. She was a woman who had walked away from everything most people would never dare to leave. And suddenly, everything about her made sense. You're making a mistake, her father said, his tone colder now. This life is beneath you. Ada shook her head slightly. No, this life is honest, it's mine, Kelvin scoffed. You think this is freedom, cleaning floors, taking orders. Ada's eyes met his. I would rather live a simple life with dignity, she said, than a luxurious one without it. The words landed heavily. For a moment no one spoke. Then Mr. Cole stepped forward. It was not a dramatic gesture, not loud, not forceful, but it carried weight. She has made her decision, he said calmly. Chief Akafor turned to him, his gaze sharp. This is a family matter. Mr. Cole held his ground. Not when it involves someone in my home. The tension between them was immediate. Two powerful men, two very different beliefs. You're interfering in something you don't understand, her father said. Mr. Cole's expression remained steady. I understand enough. Ada felt it then, not control, not pressure, but support. For the first time in her life, someone was standing beside her, not to decide for her, but to stand with her. Her father exhaled slowly, his patience thinning. You will regret this, he said. Ada met his gaze. No, she replied. I would regret going back. Kelvin's expression darkened. You think you've found something better, he asked. You think he'll choose you over everything else? Ada didn't answer. She didn't need to, because in that moment Mr. Cole already had. The silence that followed was thick, almost suffocating, as if the entire room held its breath waiting for something to break. Chief Akafor's gaze lingered on Ada for a long moment, searching for hesitation, for weakness, something he could still control. But he found none. What stood before him was not the obedient daughter he had raised. It was a woman who had made her choice and meant it. You've changed, he said finally, his tone unreadable. Ada did not deny it. Yes, she replied, I had to. Kelvin scoffed under his breath, shaking his head as if the entire situation was beneath him. This is pointless, he muttered. She'll come back eventually, they always do. Ada almost smiled, not because it was funny, but because for the first time she understood something clearly. She was no longer the kind of woman who returned to cages. Chief Akafor straightened, his authority settling back over him like a familiar cloak. This is not over, he said firmly. You are still my daughter, and this decision is mine, Ada interrupted. Her voice was calm, but it carried a strength that surprised even her. For a brief moment, something flickered in her father's eyes, not anger, not disappointment, but something closer to realization. He had lost control. Without another word, he turned and walked toward the door. Kelvin hesitated for a second, his arrogance faltering just slightly, before following behind. The sound of the door closing echoed through the room, and just like that they were gone. The silence that remained felt different now, lighter, freer, but also uncertain. Ada stood still, her heart racing, her mind trying to catch up with everything that had just happened. For years she had imagined this moment, standing up to her father, refusing the life he had planned for her, but imagining it had been easier than living it. Now that it was real, there was no going back. Mr. Cole stepped closer, his presence steady, grounding. You handled that well, he said quietly. Ada let out a small breath she hadn't realized she was holding. I wasn't sure I could. But you did. She looked at him then, really looked. And in his eyes she saw something she had been searching for all along, not control, not expectation, but respect. Why did you do it? She asked softly. Mr. Cole didn't pretend not to understand. Because you were right, he said. Everyone deserves the right to choose their own life. Ada studied him for a moment. And you, she asked, what do you choose? The question lingered between them. For a man who had spent years avoiding emotional decisions, it was not an easy one, but for the first time in a long time, he didn't look away from it. I spent years building a life where nothing could hurt me, Mr. Cole said slowly. No risks, no attachments, no expectations. Ada listened, her expression quiet but attentive. And then you came along, he continued, and changed something I didn't think could change. There was no grand declaration, no dramatic pause, just truth. You made me realize that being safe isn't the same as being alive, he said. Ada felt something shift deep within her, not because of the words themselves, but because of how real they were. I didn't come here to change you, she said softly. I know, he replied. That's why it matters. For a moment, neither of them spoke. They didn't need to. Some things didn't require words. What they built from that moment was not rushed. It was not forced. It didn't need to be. It grew slowly, naturally, rooted in something stronger than attraction, understanding, respect, choice. Ada no longer felt like she was running. She wasn't hiding. She wasn't surviving. She was living. For the first time in her life, every decision she made belonged to her, and that included him. Mr. Cole, in turn, found something he had long believed was gone, not just love, but peace. The kind that didn't come from control or power, but from connection. Their story did not erase the past. It did not pretend that pain had never existed, but it proved something stronger, that even after loss, after betrayal, after walking away from everything you've ever known, it is still possible to find something real. Ada had left her home searching for freedom. She found it, not in wealth, not in status, but in the simple, powerful act of choosing her own life. And in doing so, she didn't just find a man who knew what he wanted. She found a man who chose her, freely, completely, without conditions. And for both of them, that was more valuable than anything they had ever lost. Their love wasn't built on wealth, or status, or power. It was built on something stronger. Choice, respect, freedom. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more powerful stories like this. Because sometimes, the life you're afraid to choose is the one that will set you free.